Ooh, we got a little bit of streamception going on right now. All right, let me clear this up. Okay, here we are. So, today I'm going to be reacting or talking a little bit about the 9.1 patch, the reactions about the Ian Hazakostas interview, however you say his name, the lead dev on WoW at the moment, and the Preach interview, and the lack of PvP questions, and oh my goodness, like, guys, oh. I miss the days of when Ghostcrawler was like in charge of the communication. It was like those were the glory days. The PvP dev water cooler stuff, interviews, the communication. I miss it, and I wish we had it back. And I hope Blizzard can improve this in the future. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is we can actually just go open the list right here. Right here. There is currently no intent to add solo queues for rated PvP matchmaking in Mythic Plus. Hear about the Mythic Plus, but preferring a continued focus on better group finder tools to allow players more control over forming their own group. Now, in the interview, they didn't confirm if those tools were going to be implemented in 9.1. My guess is no, because it seems the patch is a little bit behind at the moment, seeing as they're still adding a lot of content, a lot of base content, including Torghast, revamps, and all that stuff. And in my opinion, the prioritization on features like Torghast becoming better throughout the expansion is pointless. And that's because players burnt themselves out on Torghast. I don't know of any of my friends, and I mean, obviously, my friends list is limited to 200 players at the moment, but I don't know anyone who's excited about Torghast anymore, including the people who absolutely loved it in the beginning, like myself. And that's just because of burnout on Torghast. Then, on top of the burnout on Torghast, they made it easy. Then it also feels mandatory to do Torghast in order to stay relevant with the legendaries. And you never know when they're going to release a new legendary that's going to be useful, so you want to have enough soul ash to buy one, which is actually the case right now with the upcoming Divine Toll Legendary, which I will cover in a future video. It seems absolutely insane, and 100% is going to get nerfed and become useless. We're going to waste Soul Ash on it only to get it nerfed, but that's a bit of a rant for a different video. So, the next thing that we're going to go over here, aside from the flat denial of solo queue, feels bad, man, is gear. So I initially really enjoyed the Shadowlands gearing system, and I still enjoy it. I think having a PvP vendor is awesome. Being able to completely gear out of PvP is 100% amazing. But one point I disagree with on the developers right here is power scaling. And what that means is the max item level set of PvP gear is, when you get the 233 weapon and everything else is 226. I'm pretty sure it's 227 item level. And that is absolutely massive difference than the Honor Tier 1 set, which starts off at, what's it here? At 158 item level. You have like 22k HP versus about 41k HP. So your HP is almost completely doubling. Your damage is pretty much doubling. And I'm not quite sure where they got the math that one item level is about a 1% increase in performance. I mean, I haven't done the math on that, but it certainly doesn't feel like that at the moment. The next thing we'll talk about with 9.1 is the talent revamps, and I'm super happy that they are doing a PvP talent revamp, although unfortunately not for Red Paladins, of course. They are adding cool new talents like such as the example right here, Ice Wall. This is a new Frost Mage talent. I think it has a minute and a half cooldown, but it's if anyone's played League of Legends, it's basically a Nivea, like a Nivea W or something like that. It's just like a new line of sight mechanic. So that's really cool. I would love if they added more active abilities like that to other classes. One thing I've been campaigning for Ret is the reduction of all our passive damage increases through PvP talents, and adding more actives. Red PvP talents, they're all really strong. They're really good for the most part. I'm just looking for more active abilities, more buttons to push. That's what I enjoy. We can hop over to the reactions of I mean, not the reactions, but the footnotes for the interview. And one thing that really like I just like lost my mind at was the whole conduit energy. Okay, so in the interview, they say, conduits are not perfect, which I agree with. A lot of classes have really insane conduits, such as arms warriors. Like getting 30 seconds off of die by the sword is amazing. And you have other classes like hunters, where nearly every single conduit, especially for PvP, is completely useless. So big imbalances right there. So the team still stands by not having too many systems that you switch between fights. So I am not a raider, at least not for a long time. I also don't compete in keys ever since BFA. I don't do keys anymore. Since you don't need to for gear. Um, but this to me seems like they're catering to the top 1% of PvEers, which indirectly affects PvPers. They don't want people, hearthing out and swapping their covenant, not the covenants. Oh, I guess the covenants too, but their conduits mid-fight, or like in between bosses in a raid. And that indirectly affects PvP because it doesn't let people experiment with conduits. Now, a lot of the times you're gonna want to play a soulbind, and you're gonna want to move around your conduits within that soulbind through swapping specs. And when you do that, you take away the ability to experiment with other conduits for one spec. For example, I'm playing Pelagos as a ret paladin. Pelagos is also best in slot for prot PvP if you're Kyrian. If I want to test different ret potency conduits, I'm gonna have to swap and use my conduit energy. Then if I want to go to prot, I'm gonna have to swap my conduits in prot. And then I'm gonna have to swap back to ret. And oh, now I want to go back to prot and experiment with my different prot conduits, and all of a sudden I'm out of conduit energy. So then I have to move to Clea, would be the next best, or say I wanted to play, Holy. I'm pretty sure Mechanicos is actually the best one for Holy. Now I can't even put my conduits in because I have to wait a day to socket those conduits. Like it's beyond ridiculous that they can't see that and they don't want to fix that. That is where frustration arises for me personally. Another thing that frustrates me, or that I disagree with about the interview, is there are no plans to add legendary refunds in 9.1, but the team is discussing it. Okay, so at least they're talking about it. But the fact that they're not even thinking about it for 9.1 when this has been such a prominent issue is kind of upsetting, because a lot of the things is people want to experiment and they can't. Like a lot of WoW for me back in the day, back in Mist of Pandaria, Cataclysm stuff, was reforging, gemming, individual player stats was the systematic player power. We didn't need stuff like artifacts or neck pieces from BFA or covenants, because the player power was so customizable through reforging, through gemming, through slot or sockets, through enchants, that there were cookie cutter builds, but you didn't have to play that. Like you could have played a full stamina versus a full resil back in mop or something like that, or full PvP power damage. You could have gone for agility PvP power, something like that in the gems. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, these are old stats. Basically, like what versatility derived from was old resilience, which was damage reduction, and old PvP power, which is, the opposite of resilience. It scaled through minimized PvP power. It was really weird how it worked, but it was essentially more damage against players only. There's a lot. There's a lot. And in terms of what I really want to see, what would drag me back to 9.1 would be if they squished the power difference between max level PvP, so the 2100 gear, and the honor gear. I want honor gear to be competitive with conquest gear. Back in the day, you could play as many alts, and this is the main reason I want to do this, is because I love alts. I want alts to be able to have like a 15-20% difference in power than main. I don't feel like nearly doubling the power. And I literally mean that. Like I have an alt ret paladin right now who's I don't remember the item level. He's like maybe 150. He hits for max 5k like 5k tempos for. In PvP on my main who is 226, I have crit players for 36k. No berserker buff, nothing like that. Like it's crazy the difference, absolutely crazy. And for them to say that they don't think, it was actually in the interview. He goes, "Nah, players need to improve or get better. It's a skill difference." But he was talking about rating, so he wasn't talking about PvP directly. But I mean, you can infer whatever you want from that. And to a degree, I do agree that skill in PvP is very important, more so than gear. But gear is equally, not equally, I'm sorry. Gear is definitely up there in importance, especially this patch. At least we can obtain it through PvP, though, honestly. Okay, in terms of borrowed power, this is another thing that I wanted to go over. I'm over borrowed power. I'm sure a lot of people are over borrowed power. Legion borrowed power is great, which they agree with, but it's kind of been downhill from there, and they want to find a way to get away from that. That's great, but that's probably going to be in a future expansion. I do want to see tier sets return, and they did say that tier sets are returning, but not in 9.1, which means, unfortunately, we're not looking at any PvP set bonuses for 9.1, at least at the moment. And some things that they could make PvP so much more fun with set bonuses, with stuff like maybe for paladins in particular, a movement speed increase on judgment, or like added range to Blade of Justice, or a new type of slow. And a lot of classes could have very small issues with them fixed through these mechanics. Here's a performance gaps in gearing up. Okay, blah blah blah. Power level has not changed since Wrath. Yeah. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I am just misremembering it, but it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they actually Preach said in the beginning of the interview they wouldn't be doing any PvP questions. Leaves you to wonder why. Why not? Especially when you ask on Twitter for PvP questions, is a bit unfortunate. So, guys, in my conclusion for the 9.1 patch, I am, you know, I'm always excited for a new WoW patch. I always hope it does well. Like, I love World of Warcraft. It's a great game, but it definitely they need more resources. They need more devs. They need more fresh insight. They need communication. Weekly communication would be amazing with the players. And I also ask people to not attack the devs, because as a human, you don't want to try and go out there and communicate and set your ideas, and then immediately you get lit on fire. Obviously, you need thick skin for the job if you're going to be a GM or a community manager or whatever. But as the people making the game, the devs, when your idea gets shit on, it's like you feel terrible. So I do feel for these guys. I do feel bad, but at the same time, it's really hard to not see how the content isn't just recycled, how it isn't just the same stuff that we've been dealing with in BFA and to a degree in Legion. So yeah, I know I've been rambling a little while. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more videos. This was just my little thing. I've been having a nice conversation on Twitter with Ghostcrawler right now, which is actually really cool that he responded to me. I miss Ghostcrawler. Yeah, a lot of people, everyone memed on this guy back in the day. They just said he was a frost mage, and they were like, "Dude, Greg Street, Ghostcrawler, yep, he plays a frost mage, makes frost mages so OP all the time." Like when he retired from Blizzard, or he moved to Riot, he was like, "Oh yeah, I made a holy priest. I've never played a frost mage." That was pretty funny. If they could bring back the player communication, the PvP dev water coolers, the ideas that they had with this guy, um, I would have so much more faith in Blizzard. All right, so guys, I'll see you next video. That's the end of the rant, ramble, whatever you want to call it.